Hey, sorry about that. How are you doing?
It's okay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm sitting here. I was doing some bullshitting with somebody.
I can dig that.
There you go.
I do bullshit with people all the time. Is it a real world we live in anymore? I mean, I don't know.
You know what? I kind of question it all day long.
Yep, it's crazy.
Well, I guess we can start off, since we're in that category of a little bit of craziness, wildness, and bullshit. You actually worked with the Super Freak before he was the Super Freak, Rick James.
Yep, I was in the second setup of the Minor Birds, a band back in Toronto. The first group had Neil Young in it and Bruce Palmer. And they left. They took Clancy, the hearse that they used to lug the equipment around in, and drove to L.A. and did the Buffalo Springfield. I was picked by Rick to join him in the next version of the Minor Birds at Motown, and one of my old guitar players from an early band, Bill Ross, came along. He was just with David Clayton Thomas, and he brought the drummer along, and we picked up some young kid I can't even remember the name of today on keyboard. And we went to Motown, signed to Motown, and did some recording there before the band kind of broke up. And Rick and I went back to Toronto to reform it, and he got busted for draft dodging the American Navy and for an old B&E charge.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that version of the Minor Birds turned into a thing I called Flying Circus, and that incorporated the guitar playing of Bruce Coburn. And
okay.
we did some gigs as the Flying Circus, open for Wilson Pickett and Roy Orbison and stuff like that. And
oh, wow.
then I packed up, got together with some guys in my old band, packed up, and drove to L.A. myself.
Seems like all roads end up leading to L.A., huh?
Right. I ran into Rick years later, and he took me to a couple of parties, one of them at Jim Brown's house, and that was quite the night we had together. And then I was supposed to get a picture from that because I had my arm around Muhammad Ali in the picture, and I had to have that picture. And I couldn't get a hold of him. And then I heard on the radio that he got arrested, and that was the last time I saw Rick.
Oh, wow. Did you were you surprised? Were you surprised, the musical direction he ended up going in?
Not really. He had to succumb to the ways of Motown, I think. I mean, when we worked together and when he was with the original Minor Birds, he was like a black Mick Jagger. He was totally rock-oriented, and he delivered the goods really well. But going back to Motown again after forming a couple other bands that didn't go anywhere, I think he conformed and got into the R&B thing with the horn lines and everything that eventually made him famous.
Wow. That's wild.
But he was a rocker. He was a rocker for a long time before he, got into the Super Freak and, the other songs that got radio airplay for him.
Yeah, it's funny too because the one single he had that was a big hit too. Was it "Give It to Me, Baby"? There was a band here in Philly. Yeah, there was a band here in Philly years ago that used to do like a metal version of that. That was awesome.
I can understand. I can dig that. Why not?
Some other things I saw, you've had a pretty interesting career here in music. Is it true that you actually turned down joining Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young?
Pretty much. What happened was Chris, the roadie for Buffalo Springfield, used to come by the house, Chris Sarnes, when we were staying at this place in Topanga Canyon. And he took me with him one day up on, I think it was Skylark Drive or something, to a little cabin. And I went in with him, and there was guitars on stands and a bass that was a right-handed bass, a left-handed bass strung right-handed, a jazz bass. And he said, anytime you feel like getting alone and to write or anything, come on up here. And he showed me where the key was. So about a week later, I thought, I'm going to do that. And I went up there and I grabbed the key and I unlocked the door, went in, I plugged in that bass. I started thumping on the bass, and Stephen Stills came out of the bath with underpants on and a guitar strapped on, and we jammed for a little bit. Then I hung out with him for the day. Chris came by in a Volkswagen bus, and Stephen says, "You're coming with me." And so I jumped in the bus, and Stephen drove, and he beelined it for the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where we parked in the back parking lot. And he went in and got on the house phone, and then came back out. And he's looking up, and I think about the 5th or 6th floor window, it's Judy Collins leaning out the window, and he's trying to get her to come down. And I swear it was like a rock and roll version of Romeo and Juliet. And he was like really smitten with her. And we got back in the bus because he wasn't successful, and he says, that the reason that he's unable to get together with her was her management thought he was a bad boy and that she should stay away from him. But he was definitely in love with her at the time. So I saw, we went back to Topanga and we parted ways. And I was in a studio in Hollywood with my band Merryweather at the time, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash were at Hyder's not too far away. And Chris Sarnes came to the studio and said, "Stephen would like you to come over and, to the studio where Crosby, Stills, and Nash were recording." And we got there, and I think they were reviewing Sweet for Judy Blue Eyes, of all things. And that's when Chris turned to me and said, "Stephen would like you and Eddie Roth, my keyboard player, to join Crosby, Stills, and Nash." And I declined because we had that Double Jam album coming out on Capitol Records, and I didn't want to leave the band, and I turned it down. One of the biggest regrets in my life to this day. I haven't seen Stephen since, and I'm thinking maybe he was offended by that. I don't know. One day I'll run into him again, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure. But that was my brush with that instant fame, so to speak. Yeah.
Now, how about Billy Joel? You helped him get his recording contract originally with Columbia.
Well, it was just a weird thing. I was signed to Artie Rip's family production label, and so was Billy. And when they did his first album, I was in the studio at the record plant when Artie was mixing the album, and he had the engineer wrap the capstan on the machine to speed things up. I was there for about 2 minutes, but I saw that. And then when the album came out, the whole album, Billy sounded like Mickey Mouse, and he went crazy. He couldn't believe that they did that, And of course, to this day, Artie believes some flaw in the factory pressing, right? Anyway, so that's what happened to Billy at the time. So he split the scene. He left the manager there, who had an office, his manager, who had an office at Artie's offices, and he just left, and he went to stay with some journalist friends in Malibu. Time he was working downtown as Billy Martin in a piano bar just to raise money to basically have money. And I get a call from Sandy Gibson, one of the one night, and she said, "Billy would like you to come over for dinner." So I went over to their house for dinner, and after dinner, Billy got on the piano, and I think he played "Honesty" or one of those ballads that he'd written that hadn't come out yet, and a couple other things. And we talked, and I think he was like looking to me to maybe offer my production services. I don't know why it went down, but I offered to get together with him at a little studio I was working at during the week. I'd go into this little 8-track studio in Hollywood and make demos of new songs. I could do it because of the production company. I had a publishing deal with them. So Billy turned up the next night at 3 a.m. after his Piano Man gig, which is really ironic because piano bar gig, but that's what he was. And we did a version of Neil Young's Heart of Gold together. I just found the tape and posted it about a month ago. I found a cassette. And he pounded on the keys. He was just fantastic. He sang background. Then he helped me on a couple of my songs. And the next night he turned up, the first thing I said was, instead of doing anything of mine, have you got anything new? And he said, yes, I do. I think I have the best song I ever wrote. So we mic'd him up, and he put his harmonica holder on, and he sat at the piano, and he did the first recorded version of Piano Man ever. And it was brilliant. And I gave him the master, and I gave him the mix-down tape. And he had a makeshift manager who took that tape to Columbia a couple of days later, and the rest is history. You know, he solidified his deal at Columbia. I say solidified because he already was working on a deal with Clive Davis there, but Clive Davis got fired for that whole cocaine payola to black radio stations thing that happened, and the new A&R staff didn't want anything that Clive was in negotiation with at the time, so they dumped everything. But Billy's manager, walking in with the version of Piano Man that he did the night before, blew their minds, and they redid the whole thing and signed him. And like I said, the rest is history.
Holy cow! Now, have you?
It was just a matter of the right place at the right time, right? I saw him in London. I lived in London, and I saw him after a Drury Lane show. I went with a couple of people in Chrysalis Music who I'd signed a publishing deal with there, and they were kind of like courting him, trying to get him to do the European publishing through them. And he at the time was courting George Martin, so the whole gang was there at the Drury Lane Theater. This is after he had made success out of himself, and it was his first tour. So the first time in London, I saw him, and after the show, I'm walking down the alley, and I saw him, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I live here now, Billy." And then he went back to signing autographs. And I thought, okay, that's cool. And I was walking away, and some guy chased me down and said, "Billy wants you to come to the Mayfair Hotel to the party or something." And I didn't go. I another stupid thing, I didn't go. I don't know if he remembered that or what. But last year when he came to play the T-Mobile Arena here in Vegas, I contacted his people, and he got me seats for me and my girlfriend right in front of him, third row right in front of him, and a backstage pass. But I never saw him then either, because he didn't come out. He didn't come out to join any backstage festivities because they were leaving really early in the morning and getting on a plane. So that's what I was told, but I don't know. You know, I think the guy's one of the greatest keyboard guys around. I think his first Grammy was for piano, for keyboards.
Right.
Even before a Grammy for a song, yeah.
That's
amazing. Billy was always great with me. I mean, I never had a problem with him. Anyway,
well, that's good, because I've heard other people have problems with him.
Yes, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet, but that movie, Sidemen or whatever it's called?
Hired Gun, yeah.
There's Hired Gun, right. I hear there was quite a lot of bitching in that.
Just a tad.
Right. But, I got no problems with him. No problems with him.
That's awesome.
One problem I have is any kind of biography about his life and how everything went down. That whole scene never got mentioned, and I find that kind of hard to digest at times. I mean, like, the truth is the truth, and rock history is rock history, and it should be portrayed exactly the way it happened. That was a stroke of magical luck. If you ask me, that it went down the way it did, not that he would never have gotten signed, but the whole thing, was a true rock and roll history in a way.
Yeah. That was one of the magical music moments.
Yep. Yeah, there are a few of them.
Well, how about one moment that's probably not magical? It was the whole time with Lita Ford.
Oy boy, I had just got back from Europe, and some friends of mine that were fans of my old Space Rangers albums and stuff contacted me, and they put me in touch with a drummer because I was looking to go into the studio, and I like to write on the spot, and I like to jam, and I teamed up with my old keyboard guy, second guitar guy from the Neil Merryweather Kryptonite album, Jamie Herndon. He had just finished all the Nick Gilder stuff. He worked on all the Nick Gilder's recordings, Hot Child in the City, and all the albums. And he was free when I got back. So I got him, and these friends turned me on to Dusty Watson, the drummer. And we went into a studio, and we cut 10 things in one night. And I was pretty excited about it. It was good stuff. And then a couple of days later, Dusty said, I'm joining Lita Ford. And the person that turned me on to Dusty said, yeah, he was a bass player. He says, I'm going to be with it too. You got to think about managing us. You'd be a great manager, blah, blah, blah. So I took Lita out to a drive-in movie. And, we picked up a bottle of booze and we drank and talked. And I don't even remember the movie because we just laughed and talked. And I got to know her pretty quickly. And I thought, yeah, I can trust her. I think that this might work. So I started to manage her. I got her a deal with a production company that forked over enough money to pay salaries to the band and to garnish. I made some equipment deals. I got her a BC Rich deal with BC Rich guitars. I got the drummer a deal with Dusty, a deal with I think it was Slingerland or Ludwig or something at the time. And everything was rolling along great. I got my friend Russ Reagan, who was head of Phonogram International, he used to be head of Uni, involved. I went to his office, played him some demos I did with her, and he, he wasn't that crazy about it, but I said, call Europe. I'll guarantee you they'll want you to sign her. So he did. He called on the spot and found out they were all excited. They liked the Runaways. Oh, yeah, you signed Lita Ford, blah, 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 blah. So eventually it turned into a $300,000 deal and a 2-album guarantee. At the time, nobody was guaranteeing more than one album. No label would pick you up and put an album out and say, okay, let's do another one unless the first one went somewhere. And that's just the way they operated back then. Before then, it was 7-year deals. If you got signed to a label, the label was obligated to commit to an album a year for 7 years. Steve Miller stayed with the Capitol deal, and it was on his 7th album that he finally broke through and made it. I was stupid. I left some of those deals behind. I didn't think anything would change. But getting back to Lita, the $300,000 deal was great. The 2-album guarantee was great. Everything was going great. I delivered the album, and then I got a call, you're out. And I never got paid for my production. I never got paid my management share for making that deal. Never saw the woman for 33 years until I was a guest of Ace Frehley's here in Vegas, and she opened for him. Up to her in the change room, put my arm around her and said, hey, it's been 33 years, Lita. And she realized who I was, started to shake, and ran into the washroom and didn't come out for 20 minutes. I guess that's guilt. I don't know. Anyway, my girlfriend made friends with her, and I got some pictures. She wanted pictures, so I'm standing there with Lita, and Lita's pointing at me and giving me the thumbs up, and it was so hypocritical and so rock and roll story, but that's another one of those stories. I delivered an album that basically was exactly what she was like at the time. I did a lot of work on it. I had to punch in a lot of words because she wasn't like the greatest singer, and some of her guitar playing seemed similar to, the track before. So I started singing guitar solos. I have a high voice. I can utilize that part of my voice. So I would sing these guitar lines to make them different, and she would learn them and she would play them, and she became better. And I have a whole bunch of stuff that was not released, a whole album's worth of stuff. I posted a couple of things. I posted 2 covers we did. We did Fire, the Jimi Hendrix thing, and we did Oh Darling by Paul McCartney. And I posted them, and I think in a couple of them I have a knife in my back. I can't remember what I did. But they're out there, and they kind of tell the story. I'm not going to pull any punches. It's been a long time, but I never got paid.
Did she at least say, like, when you saw her, I'm sorry?
No. Her thing is, so long ago, I don't remember. That, she remembered because she ran away, and freaked out. Everybody remembers what they did in the music business, what was not good, what was good. I mean, you know, if you don't remember, then you got a serious problem.
Yeah.
You know, but she knows exactly what she did. Everybody knew that, you know, people in the business knew, and you know, the worst thing that happened, I think, out of all of it was I was going to give up management because Shep Gordon was interested, the best manager ever in the world in the history of rock and roll. He was Alice Cooper's manager, Blondie's manager, Teddy Pendergrass, all kinds of people, and he just was a brilliant manager, and he was interested. So I had him come down to a studio one night, and she just treated him like garbage, you know. And maybe it's because he walked in with a beautiful Playboy bunny girl, but what's that got to do with business? I don't know. But
right,
we wound up going with another manager that I won't even name because I can't stand the guy, but he was like probably one of the instigators with her that, you know, cut me out of the thing. I don't care about being cut out of it, but not being paid for what I did, you know, that's the hurtful part of it.
Right.
Anyway, that's the Lita story. And, you know, there are all kinds of hidden details in the story that aren't even worth bringing up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now that situation actually, did that like kind of cause you to leave the music business for a while?
It kind of did. I kind of thought I've had enough of this, you know, after all these years and all the albums and all the bands and whatnot. I thought I'll just take a breather, and I became a photographer and a model builder for the Los Angeles Bureau of Engineering.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I had my own hours, and I was making good money, and my wife worked for a similar company that worked for the Bureau of Engineering and all the projects that were under construction and stuff. And I got to, you know, do photography for brochures, and I built these giant bugs for the opening of the Hyperion treatment plant, these giant costumes for guys to wear to pose with the kids that came to the opening. And I built models and stuff, and it was, like I said, on my own time. And my wife noticed that I was, you know, the computer age started up, and she noticed I was all over the internet. So she told me, and then she helped me build a little studio in the back room of the house we lived in. And I did 2 kids' TV shows with Jamie Herndon, my partner from the Space Rangers days. And we did like 48 songs for 2 kid TV shows. Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad was one of them. On Saturday morning it was on. And that kind of got me back into it. And then Dusty came back into the fold, and Jamie, Dusty, and I had a studio band for a couple of decades called 100 Watt Head. And I have 3 albums worth of material that I'm about to stream.
Oh, cool.
And that'll be out there. Yep.
Now, how about that? Like this whole world of streaming going on right now. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's horrible. There's no money in it. Spotify doesn't pay anything. I think I heard that, you know, the song Happy, that was number 1 for about 3 months.
Okay.
That garnished him like $48,000 or something. I mean, millions and millions of downloads on Spotify, and he gets like $48,000. I mean, they are sucking the life out of writers, and that's why the only way you can make money these days is getting on the road and selling your merch. And the computer age pretty much killed the music industry as we knew it. You know, anybody and his mother could go into a room and pump out what they called a beat and make crappy music. And I mean, just, you know, we got cookie cutter female singers that all sound the same, playing that disco beat, singing that disco beat crap. I mean, if you look at the Grammys, you know, very rarely do you see anything new. You know, I'm happy about Imagine Dragons. I like Panic at the Disco even. You know, being a hard rocker, I appreciate talent, and I'm happy to see that those guys made it out of Vegas. And that's just a rare thing these days. It's very tough for any band to break through if they're really seriously rocking, you know. That's my take on the state of affairs today. I mean, there 4 major labels, and everybody else is struggling to get stuff out on little tiny labels. It's a tough grind. I haven't toured or done anything in a long time, but I'm speculating going out next year. I talked to Yanni yesterday, and I said, let's start thinking about maybe booking Merryweather Stark next year and maybe doing a second album. Right now I'm doing Space Rangers 3. I have a cult following for Space Rangers and the Kryptonite album, so I've teamed up with Pete Ravine. He was in a group called Salty Dog, guitar player. And he's got the chops to do Space Rangers. And then Dusty Watson, again, is the drummer of choice for me. And the project's coming along really good. But meanwhile, I do have Merryweather Stark happening out there, and a lot of people are reacting favorably to it. And, more power to it,
It's a really awesome album.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
now, how did you guys hook up?
Computer that is good. Actually, Yanni got a hold of me. He does Mountain of Power albums every couple of years, and he was working on Mountain of Power 3. And it's where him and his friends get together and they do covers of their favorite songs from different albums from the past, because Yanni has quite a record collection. And he wanted to do 2 of the songs off my Kryptonite album. And I said, okay, you can do them as long as I can sing something on the album. So I wound up doing Walter Rossi songs. He had a band called Charlie, I think. And I did 2 of his songs on the album. And I started getting decent reviews on the reviews of the album. I was pointed out as wow, he's back and he's singing great. And so that was a lift for me. And then Yanni called up or sent me a message that said, you want to write? And he sent me a little track that he would make a track up with guitar chords, and he put a bass in and an electric drum thing and sent it to me, and I would then edit it, make it into a structure and do a melody and sing the right lyrics, and then I sent it back to him. The first one took all but 10 minutes to do for me. It was like it just flowed out of me, and that was Babylon Sin City, one of the cuts on the album. And I sent it back, and he loved it. And then we just kept doing it. And over probably about 8 or 9 months, we wound up with 10 songs and got a great guy to master, Martin Jessup Anderson, great guitar player himself, but also a wonderful engineer, mastered the album in Copenhagen. And we all kind of did it over the internet. And never thought I'd ever even participate in that kind of thing, but it worked out really good.
Yeah, it came out really. I've been listening to it, and I keep singing Irma La Douche, and I'm like, what is that? And I looked it up, and it was a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie. It was a movie that I went to see with my young girlfriend, and I was young. I was 16. She was, I think, 14. And I took her to a movie, and she was from an Italian family called Sampanos. And old man Sampano said, you better have her back by 10 o'clock. So, we went to see Irma La Douce and enjoying the movie, and then I realized, holy crap, we're not going to see the end of the movie. I got to get you home. I wasn't going to do anything silly with the Sampano family. And that's why the movie always stuck in my head. I had to wait a couple of years, before I saw the end of it on TV. Anyway, so that stuck in my head, and I came up with the lyrics about a teenage prostitute. And that came together quite well. I like the song. I think it's a good song.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it's got a blues rock sound to it. It sounds metal at times, but it's got that big arena rock sound too.
I'm hoping so. I think that there's a few things on there that can be anthem-like, when if we do go out and play. Most likely I would play bass on a couple of things, but I think I would do the whole frontman thing as best I could for Merryweather Stark. And I have a lineup in mind, which includes Peter Trumpeter Svensson, who did the drumming on the album. He was just here in Vegas for 10 days. I had to play guide and tour guide, and I think we went to so many buffets, I think I gained back 10 pounds or tried to lose weight.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
Now, if you're talking about you're talking about doing shows for next year for this, would it be here in the States or over in Europe or both? Or?
No, probably Europe. It's really the United States is really like I don't know. People are kind of jaded in a way. I mean, if you're not already known and you're not big, it's tough to get audience reactions. True audience reactions, I say, compared to Europe audiences. Not putting down America or Canada. I'm from Canada, so I can't put down North America. But the audience kind of feel is different. In Europe, they just love you. I mean, maybe it's because you're from America, or overseas, they love you more or something. But I think it's just because they have a love of music that transcends any kind of feeling about whether they've seen it before or not, or heard of you before or not. I think here fame is the ticket to success. Fame. You have to have some fame to be able to get the kind of reaction you would get in Europe, and just by playing good music.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't tie myself in a knot with that, because I'm thinking about it. What did I just say?
No, I mean it is. It's like early. I mean, I see like here in Philly, like going out to shows. It's like some bands. I'm like, all right, like there's maybe 50 people here. Like, what is going on? And these people, they sold a lot of albums at some point.
Yeah, I know. It's a crazy thing. I don't know. And this country, all the young people are walking around. Like my girlfriend's daughter. She's like 24. And we go see her. She's going to school in L.A. And when we visit, and the car radio's on, and she's like scanning the radio, and all of a sudden she finds this rap song. She knows all the friggin' words to these ugly rap songs. And I think that is just a product of what the music business always was. Whatever is shoved down your throat via radio, you get used to it, and you think that's the name of the game, and that's the way a lot of bands made it in the past too. When labels promoted you well, the bands that got promoted well, whether they were as good as the ones that didn't or not, were the ones that people remembered because the stuff was shoved down their throat every day. And It's the same thing with in the music industry now. The big four, promote something, and they pump it, and they work the stations, and they get it all out there, and and the little guys they can't compete with that. So you don't get, groundbreaking music from new acts very easy anymore.
No.
The days of FM and all that stuff. Yeah, you got to look for it. And there's so many stations, satellite stations, everything, all they play is the old standard stuff. Not many places are featuring anything new or different. At least that's my take on it. I don't know. Maybe I don't listen enough.
No, it's true though. It's true. Like they'll play like the older stuff on repeat over and over, and a lot of these artists are putting out new music, but they won't even like give the new music a chance at all. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm hoping that rock and roll never dies. The saying. It's true. It's not going to, because I see every once in a while you see something posted on the internet. These young kids whose parents played them all this stuff, and they got little bands going, and they're killing it. I mean, I've seen some shredder little guitar players out there that are like 9, 10 years old. I went on for 2 years in a row, my girlfriend and I went on the Legends of Rock cruise, where it features a lot of big acts. And there was always a couple of little kids on board that went up on stage to jam with, in the jam on jam night, and really did well, So there is hope that a lot of the original music that really was at its peak is still going to be there, and people are going to still be influenced and bring it back somewhere. Because, like I said, the cookie cutter, dance beat crap with the same dancers all around all the time. I mean, chicks out front dancing with a bunch of dancers. It just like drives you nuts after a while. It just does. The only act like that I think, I went to see Justin Timberlake. I can't knock him. I really like him. I think he's a great personality and a talented man. But, this dancing thing, this dancers all over the place and not really paying that much attention to the actual skill. It's more like the same cookie cutter show. The only act that I think that that I really admire is Bruno Mars, because I think he does it and he puts the music out front. It's I love his band. I like the whole thing. But these days we're in the days of canned music. In other words, if you see the drummer has earphones on, but you may not see earphones, you may have earplugs, but there's a lot of extra stuff going on because they're playing to tracks, and that's a product of the whole DJ thing too. DJs are making more money than real musicians, and I find that pathetic. And then you look at the Electric Daisy Festival that's here in Vegas, and you see all the young kids that go out to it, stand out in the desert for 2-3 days, and with their mollies and booze and everything else, gyrating to the sounds of sampled music, and a guy up there with a donut on his head or something, and waving his arms around, pressing buttons of pre-recorded music, and that's supposed to be talent. I admit there is a little skill in it, but that should not take the place of live bands and live players. But it is, and that's the world we live in, Yeah. Anyway,
it's sad.
I'll get off my soapbox.
Oh boy! So all right, so we're with the new album with Merryweather Stark. Where should we send everybody to get that?
I think that you have to get it online. I don't know where it is in record stores. I'm not sure if many record stores even exist. So you would have to go to GMR Records site, or there's an American label here called Grooveyard that also is repping the album. So you could contact Grooveyard for the album. And then of course it's streaming, so it could always be downloaded. And it doesn't do us any good, but. But I think you can find it. My idea was to put a little MP3 thing together with Irma on it, a couple of other songs from the album, and send them out to all the smaller radio stations. The ones that are still playing great rock, and the college rock stations and stuff, and just getting it out there, because once people hear it, there's a chance that it can become something and make it worthwhile for us musicians to go out there and support it. Anyway, that's the biz. That's the biz.
It's the biz you gotta love to hate.
Yeah. You gotta love to hate it.
Now, how about the Space Rangers? Like, when are we going to see that? Well, that would be next year?
That's in the work. Yeah, it should. I'm hoping it'll be done. It's very melodic. It's, of course, got some blazing guitar solos in it, like the Space Rangers and Kryptonite albums had. And there are some real nice tunes on this thing as far as a commercial value. There's a couple of them. There's some hard rockers. There's some spaced out stuff. And it's just called Neil Merryweather Space Rangers 3. I already got the cover started with a great cartoon guy, because I'm continuing the cartoon cover with the dome-shaped border on it, that hoop as I call it. And this one has us standing on a planet with our ship in the background, and the sky all lit up with stars and planets, and it follows into the theme of Space Rangers. Funny thing is, it's so many years later, and it has quite a cult following worldwide. I mean, even people that have died, I guess, and their record collections go up for sale in a garage sale, and then these young guys get it and they find me. I just found this and never knew you existed, and you get that kind of response to it that, then you think, well, maybe it's time for number 3, and,
yeah, why not?
It's a set, It's a set, you know what I mean? You got to have
Absolutely.
Space Rangers Kryptonite, Space Rangers 3. It's the essential spaced-out music set. Thank you. Yeah, Pete's doing some blazing guitar work. Yeah.
It's the trifecta of the series.
Yes, right. And any spillage, will hopefully generate number 4. Yanni has already sent me another track to write to in the possibility that we're going to do another Merryweather Stark also. And
awesome.
I kind of would like to get him over here and then go into. I have a studio, and that's where I'm doing Space Rangers right now in my house. But I have a friend who has a great, big, huge studio that I'd like to get the guys together in and just cut the album together in one room. That would be nice.
That'd be awesome.
And the speakers this guy got cost $49,000.
Oh,
just the speakers. Yeah, 2 18-inch on the bottom, 2 15 sitting on top, and a horn in the middle. And you can, if you recorded a pin dropping during a session, this thing could fish it out. I mean, you could hear it in there. I mean, never heard anything like it. So I'm kind of excited about getting in there to mix Space Rangers, and
that's awesome.
That should be good. Yeah. So if anybody's in Vegas, you want to record in a great studio with a great engineer, Hit Track Studio. That's what I'm talking about. Plug.
Nice.
Plug.
Get them plugs out there. How about you? Are you?
Tom
where
Parr.
should we find you at?
Tom Parr. What's that?
Where should we find you at? How about you?
What, like live-wise?
Well, live or social media or? Oh,
yeah, I'm on Facebook. I also paint. I have 5 paintings at City Hall here on the mayor's floor. So I have an artist site. I have a video site where I make up these little videos I call snapshot videos, like the one if you saw Irma. I don't know if you saw that. And then I have my regular Facebook site. I have a friend coming to town, and we're going to reorganize things, and we're going to put a Space Ranger site on Facebook. We have a Merryweather Stark site that Yanni started, and I think I'm going to finally get into Instagram because I hear they're doing a kind of a music push thing or something, some kind of new thing that they have. So I'm going to get into that. I'm waiting for my German friend to show up. He's a computer guy. I'm not. I can record on computer. I can do my emails on computer, but this guy knows how to work it and how to get my stuff placed where I need it to go. I mean, even, I keep getting notices that they've reformatted MySpace, which is, and I keep trying to get on my old MySpace site. I don't remember any passwords. I can't even get to my own page. Even if I wanted to take it down, I can't, But I'm going to try and cover all of the boundaries of what's out there on the internet to be able to promote things, and hopefully it'll help,
Absolutely.
We're lucky to have GMR Records with the Merryweather Stark because they have some good distribution, and Lena, the girl in charge of the A&R girl that signed us, really loves the album, so hopefully they're still working it.
Awesome.
You just never know, but it really comes down to, getting out there, and if you can rep it live, and that's the thing to do. That's the way to promote yourself, and hopefully by next year I'll be able to do that. I still feel strong, and knock on wood, my console. I still feel strong and active and feel like I can get out there and kick some butt, so I'm going to try.
Awesome. I love to hear that.
Thank you.
and hopefully do some shows here in the States.
Yeah. I'd like to. Yeah. Especially if I stage the Space Ranger thing, it's going to be a good show. Got plans, but mice and men, You never know.
Well, I'll tell you what. When that Space Rangers is ready to go, you got to come back and we got to do another interview.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, are you on Facebook?
I am actually. I just sent you a friend request.
Okay, good. Because through that medium, I will get you some of the early mixes. I'll send you some MP3s and get your opinion and stuff. I'm looking forward to that.
I would love that.
All right.
Cool. Well, Neil, thank you so much, man. It was great talking to you. Thank you for the stories, too. And we'll have to pull out some more old stories next time as well.
That'd be wonderful. keep in touch with me. And if you're ever in Vegas, let me know. Just send me a message and we'll get together.
You know what? I got to get out there because I'll come and hang out with you and come and hang out with Mr. Dave Tedder too.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Dave just the other night. We were at
cool.
a mutual friend's birthday party. Yeah, I just met Dave that night. Nice guy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, actually, I just met him.
Yeah, let's do that.
I mean, we've been working together like 5 years now, but he was out here on the East Coast 2 weeks ago, and I went and met him up at Staten Island for dinner.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, when you get here, this is like Food City.
I'm all about the food. I'm there.
All right. Okay, great, man.
Thanks,
Thank
Neil.
you.
Take care, man. Bye.
You too. Bye.